All right, I'm live right now, live with Jason here on Facebook, soon on Instagram. So,
Cool.
all right. So, yeah, once you tune in, we'll get started.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn down the volume here on the Instagram.
Yep. All right. Tune in. Request. Add. All right. This is going to be a good call. It's going to be a good one. I feel it. All right. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 9 of the Open Heart Collective. My guest today is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jason Will. Jason, introduce yourself to the people.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. What's interesting is we actually connected on Instagram. So it's like we're back here where we started, which is, really the power of everything. But so just a little bit about me. I actually also grew up in the Midwest, such as yourself.
Nice.
Made it out to California about 6 years ago and have been doing the social influencer network stuff since then. And we built a community of food, beverage, and lifestyle influencers across the world and help a lot of brands in the process.
Nice. So for those of you guys who are tuning in on Facebook, this is also being broadcast simultaneously on Instagram. And for those of you guys on Instagram, they say they can't hear you on Instagram.
How about now on Instagram?
All right, let me know. Let us know.
Let's hope that made the difference.
So yeah, we'll keep going. So for those of you guys who are watching on Instagram, also this is on Facebook. So the Open Heart Collective, this video series is all around mental health, the conversations that we don't have often enough. And oftentimes we need to have more frequently. So everybody's got a story, and the whole mission of this video content series is as follows. My story may not resonate with all of you, but your story will definitely resonate with someone else. So that being said, Jason, tell the people your story.
Sure. So obviously the life of an entrepreneur is an interesting one, to say the least. And grew up in a family of entrepreneurs and always really focused on brick and mortar businesses. And, in the world that we live in today, it's really about how many people can you touch. And, I really think through digital means, that is really allowing the possibilities to be endless. And the whole reason why I really went after trying to build a community of like-minded people around the world is, like you said, to have a lot of these dialogues with each other, but to form a lot of the friendships and a lot of the connections.
Yeah, Jason, I'm not hearing you on Instagram at all.
Let's see here.
I just realized that.
How about this?
No, I'm not hearing you.
Can I rejoin the?
Hello, quiet.
Hold on one second.
That's so weird. I'm gonna boot you off and then join and then invite you back.
Okay.
So that's weird, everybody. 1 second while we get Jason back on. So sorry about this, Facebook. Okay, so yeah, just mute me because I can hear myself.
How about this?
Yep. That should work.
Are we good to go?
I'm good. Oh, that's much better. All right, okay. So rewind about 40 seconds. And then Midwest entrepreneur, like-minded people, community, and go.
Yeah, so basically after growing up in a family who had brick and mortar businesses, you really can touch people in the local environment. And what I wanted to always do was build a business that had no bounds to it. And, really the whole idea of creating Zipkick in at the beginning was really not even from a business perspective. It was really from trying to connect people that really had a passion for food, beverage, and a lifestyle of wanting to connect. I always preach to people that food is like the universal language, that I don't care if we don't speak the same actual language, You can share a meal with somebody and it really changes the entire dynamic of your friendship or your connection with other people. And that's why I started Zipkick. It has always been a passion project of mine, and it's turned into a lot more than that. And I've met some really incredible people along the way. One thing to talk about is at the end of 2017, I actually went on a 12,000-mile, 90-day road trip across the United States. And I tried to meet as many of our influencer communities as possible along that journey. And, really having the conversations with all the folks in those different cities was so incredibly inspiring. And I think it also just pushed the relationships into a whole different level.
Wow, 12,000-mile journey, right?
Yeah, wow. I don't think Enterprise was too happy with me when I turned that car back in. But a little loophole is when you pick up the car and drop it off at the same location, it's unlimited miles. So if you're ever looking to do a very long distance road trip, just pick it up and drop it off at the same location.
That's a brilliant little tidbit. Oh, wow. So, I mean, how many people did you meet in this journey? I'm really curious to know.
I mean, it was a lot. I mean, we hosted influencer events in a couple dozen cities. Each time I went to a city, it could be anywhere from a few people to some cities we had 15 to 20 influencers come out. So it's, it was all over the place. And I was meeting as many people as possible. I went to the state fair and saw a bunch of my childhood friends in Minnesota, which, a fun fact, that's the largest state fair in the United States. So we're very proud of that. But
although I'm from Illinois, I don't know why I'm sharing that, but Midwesterners unite.
Yes, for sure. So it was great. And, I think ultimately it reaffirmed that all of this was really built off of those friendships that we've created and the memories that we've spent eating and sharing those memories together.
That's incredible, because I bet during that duration of that journey, the stories that you heard, I bet were just incredible. Like these just absolutely legendary human beings that you're coming across that all share their story with you, and that influences you internally in some way. And I'm sure not all of the stories were good, right? Like,
yeah, it's just it's so fascinating when you interact with people, and what a lot of people really don't know is that the first half of the influencers that we onboarded, I did myself, and I spoke to every single one of them over the phone. I actually didn't meet roughly about 95% of our influencers in person. I've only interacted with them either over the phone or through social media. And to actually meet people in person is completely different, right? And to be able to connect with somebody over that face-to-face dialogue, you just can't put a value on that. It's such a priceless moment that I think about that, and I don't know, it's so interesting because I think it became so much more real for them when we did have those in-person conversations. And it's always been real for me, and it's always been a big passion project, but I don't think enough communities actually, whoever creates them or whoever's a part of driving them forward, I don't think they spend enough time building those relationships inside of a community. And people really need that, and people really appreciate that. And, when you talk about, the whole dynamic of why you do these broadcasts, it's really to open up your heart to as many people as possible in this community and build something that nobody else has built before. And that's what drives me forward.
Amen. I can't say anything else to like that improves upon what you just said. I mean, that's why I exist. My space is just a little bit differently than yours. I mean, my space is the music space. I just recently got into the agency world. Like it's always been about the musicians for me. And musicians oftentimes are influencers in their own respect as well. Right. So it's like, but we're all people at the bottom of it. Right. So, and honestly, I've tried to steer away from utilizing the term influencer or salesman or because it takes the human out of it, I think, to an extent. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad or that we can't use it. I'm just saying, me personally, I'm a human before I am anything else. Everything else is just a byproduct of me being here. So
what's interesting that you bring that up. And by the way, one of our influencers connected, she said, I love that you personally call your new influencers. That was a huge shock to me. And I can't even tell you how many times, Ryan, that I got on the phone with somebody and they're like, so what do you do at the company? And I would like sit there and chuckle because it's not about hierarchy at all. And it never has been. Right. But I think people are genuinely shocked when somebody takes the initiative, right? Because it is that human element that really doesn't exist. Right. And I can't even tell you how many times that I get emails from what I understand is actually not a real person. It's just a persona email that somebody sets up at a company, right? I never knew such a thing existed, honestly. And, that actually came as a shock to me that there isn't that personal aspect. But to touch on the influencer piece, what I've really started to define an influencer as is really somebody who has a digital word of mouth communication with a global audience, right? And so when people ask, they go, well, what is an influencer? Well, I basically say, imagine if you're in a room with all your friends, right? And you tell somebody, oh, check out this great restaurant. And your friends are like, sure, I'll go check it out. Well, imagine if you had an endless size room that was your friends, right? And that's what social media has really become. So the dialogue that you have with people that follow you is really just your digital word of mouth that you would tell your friends if you were physically in the same space.
I love that. Thank you for explaining that, because I think the term has become so buzzwordy that it's lost its definition.
Yeah.
And that definition was spot on with why I still even remotely consider utilizing that term, because that's what it is. It's we have these tools, we have these spaces to where we can communicate, and not just communicate for an ulterior motive, simply communicate because sometimes we have cool shit to say. Sometimes we need other people to listen. And that's why this whole thing came to be. Because one of my good friends and I, back in 2013, I was a year and a half, 2 years into the record label at this time. And we were like, man, we should start this book where I would go online and I'd write my story, right? Then they would go online, they'd write their story. And then somebody else could come on and write their story. And then all these different people could come in and write their stories.
Right.
So then fast forward to last month when I started this whole thing, or I'm sorry, March when I started this whole thing. I'm like, and in the first episode with Joel from the Empower Good podcast, I remember saying, this is exactly like what I was building before, because originally this content series was just going to be a month of mental health awareness because we needed to talk about it. Because unfortunately, and specifically as in this conversation right now, the entrepreneurial space is one in which mental health is not discussed often enough, and which is odd to me. The reason why it's so odd, because we're in this culture right now. Thank you to every not influencer, every motivational speaker ever is saying hustle all the time, be on the offense, this, that, or the other thing. But the one thing that we are never on the offensive about is our own mental health or the mental health of those around us. Because isn't that the most important thing? If we're right here and we're right here, we can be right, like everything else lines up. Fuck the business. That's why my tagline and ending my blogs and stuff like that has come to be happy, have fun, and hustle hard. But if you're not living the first two, the third is irrelevant. That's it. There's no amount of hustle that can bring happiness or having fun. It's just not possible.
And that's why it really matters on the people that are a part of the things that you do, right? I was talking with a business owner last night, and he's like, man, if only I had all the skills, to do X, Y, and Z. And I said, the beauty is you don't have to have all the skills, right? The beauty is that you build a team, and that's what gets things done, right? And, what's really interesting is what you bring up around this idea of mental health, because, people mask weaknesses all the time, right? My favorite question in an interview, right? When people ask, what is your biggest weakness? I work too hard, right? Or, everything is spun into a positive that is actually a weakness, right? And, I think we need to not necessarily shy away from these weaknesses or issues that people face. I think you need to find a way to, shift your lens on how you look at these things and be able to, be able to really dial these things in to try to benefit the situation. But that's why I also feel that community and the relationships that you have with people are so critical, because it's not just around having surface level relationships with people. It's really trying to give and create a bond that hopefully is long lasting.
Right, right. And you hit on a lot of it there. Bond, right? This tool, social media, is so incredible at its ability to put you in the position to create those relationships. Like,
Right.
I was an early adopter into social, not so much Facebook, but just social media in general, especially as it related to business. Like back in 2007, 2008, I mean, Facebook would have been around a couple years by then.
Right.
Instagram was a thought, right? Like come into fruition. 2009, 2010, Facebook starts kicking it up. MySpace is obviously dying. Like these new platforms, Path and Instagram, start coming out, and all it is, and so many people got it wrong so early,
right?
Because everybody started bragging, right? Everybody started with a highlight reel, rather than starting with connection, and that was the thing that I did from the beginning. Is it was always about connection.
Right,
I mean,
which was the downfall of MySpace, right? Because it was all advertising, it was all about the celebrity, it was all about the verified profile of essence, right?
Right.
And it was not about the two-way relationship of actually connecting with people.
Right, and that's like one of my business partners, Felista, who will inevitably watch this and or listen to this at some point in time. For the first, I just met her last month when I was in New York. Like, can somebody translate into German? Ferdy, I can't translate this into German right now, but this video that's also being broadcast on Facebook is going to be pulled and put up onto YouTube. And there we can work on transcribing it. So send me a DM and we'll talk about it.
You're Mr. International over there, Mr. Block.
I mean, it's probably your people that are just coming.
Which, by the way, it's so cool. So, fun fact: we did a exchange program with Guadalajara, Mexico, in high school, and one of the girls from that exchange program just joined the broadcast. So that's pretty cool.
This is amazing.
And some of our influencers also, so Product Poet and Brooke and some of these other Burley and Puff. These are all of our influencers, right, that are joining. So I don't know, it's really cool.
My good friend Yasir just joined. Like, this is why. Okay, so back to the story. So Felista and I, she goes by @HumanWays on Instagram. So everybody go show her some love on this afterwards. She and I go back to about 2011. So even before I started, it was about 2011, 2012, right around the time I started Independent Ear, which was my first company. And we'd been friends through Path originally, then it moved to Instagram, then it was Facebook, and then we obviously just cultivated the relationship from there. But we met for the first time ever last month.
Wow.
And she's been a business partner for 18 months.
Wow.
Like, this is somebody, like, probably, I would say honestly, the third closest female in my life, next to my mother. Well, mothers, I've got stepmoms and all that stuff.
Yep.
My wife, and then it's her. Like, but because I trust these people. Like, I put so much of myself out there on social. Like, that's again why this content series exists. Because, like, let's talk. Like, Rowan, who was the last guest prior to you, she was like, I just get to sit and talk to somebody for an hour.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we happen to be broadcasting in this and recording this because not only is this going to be broadcast live right now, it's going to be available on YouTube, and then it's going to be available in audio form later. But it's just humans having a conversation.
Right.
And it's all live, it's all raw, it's all unedited. I don't do any editing to this whatsoever. When it goes,
you can edit this mug though. You got to clean this up a little bit.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. I can't have you looking better than me. I mean, but it's like, and it's raw because who am I to judge where anybody watching or listening, whether now or after the fact, gets their value.
Right.
Like, because it could be that one split second of that one thing that you say that I'm like, nah, that's fucking stupid. And I edit it. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, those people who are hearing it now, they're like, I get it, but it doesn't make sense to me. So I edit it. Like, it loses its value. Now, it's an hour? Yes. Are a lot of people going to listen to it? Who the hell knows? But it's not the point. The point is we're having these discussions. Lou, what's up, brother? Philip's feed is so clear. Well, that's good. I'm glad my feed is clear. But it's like, this is why we have these conversations, because, and I want to get into your story a little bit deeper here in a minute, because you, in your bio, you post, you were in a job, you were told to do something that didn't fit with your moral code, and you had to move beyond, like,
Correct.
you chose at that moment. So let's go there right now. And
Sure.
Then I want to go maybe a little bit deeper than that about your story and what you've encountered.
Sure.
Because mental health is one of these things where it's vague.
Yep.
And everybody can correlate to it, whether it's personal, like a lot of my story, or from external that's come into them from other people. So
yeah, it's I've only had 3 professional jobs. I don't think people really know that about me, but I had a ton of jobs before I graduated college. But since I graduated college back in 2007, I had 3 jobs, and I was actually pretty happy with all the jobs, to be honest with you. But all 3 jobs came to one critical juncture that I just couldn't get past. The first job I ever had, I was promised a full ride MBA. The economy thing happened in 2009, 2010. That was pulled out from underneath me. And I'm just very much a, do what you say and follow through on the things that you promise to people. And
makes sense.
And that's just always who I've been. And whether you call it old school or not, if I give somebody my word that I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. And we all make mistakes, but you've got to own up to the fact that you make mistakes and be willing to rise above that. And so I ended up leaving the first job as a result of that, because that was not reinstated the way that it was drafted to me. And then I went to another company, and I just remember the first day I was on the job, the most eye-opening experience. We sit down in front of the client, and the manager that I'm reporting to tells the client that I'm an expert at something I've never seen before. And I remember leaving the room, and I'm just like, what was that? And she seemed like very put off by me asking her that. And I'm like, that thing that you said I'm an expert in? I have no idea what that even is. It's just, it's in that moment where then somebody replies with, well, then figure it out. And you're just like, I'm fine with figuring it out, but I'm also not okay with like this whole deception thing when you have clients that are paying you a lot of money. And I was there for a year and decided to move on. I always feel like you've got to stick it out and really try to, dig your heels in for at least 12 months and give it a whirl and at least, again, uphold your end of the bargain, right? When somebody offers you a job, at least try to carry it out for a minimum of a year before you decide your next move. Right. And then ultimately, when I decided to finally break it off and never work for somebody ever again, was about 3.5, 4 years ago. And I was in a job and was asked to do some things with the budget that I wasn't comfortable with. Play the shell game of moving money around. And it wasn't for me. Right. I just think you have to understand that your value in this world is more than what a paycheck defines. So I always say to people, and again, I believe that there's a trade-off of everything that you do, right? If you want a job because either you find passion in it or you find security in it, or you really enjoy your colleagues, or you love the company. Right. Everybody has a different reason for why they do the work that they do.
Right.
And that's not any of us to judge anybody for having whatever job. And I also don't feel like a job defines somebody.
Right. So to those of you guys who are listening, I'm Philip Ryan Block, and I'm being joined by Jason Will. This is the 9th episode of the Open Heart Collective. This is a video, audio podcast series all around mental health and what it simply is like being a human being in the entrepreneurial space, as a musician, as a creative, as, yeah, just being a human. So Jason is currently in the midst of sharing his story. To those of you guys who just tuned in, thank you for watching and listening. Yeah, so back to Jason.
Awesome. So that's why I inevitably, decided that, my run of working for other people was not something that I was that passionate about. And I also preach to a lot of people that time is the most valuable asset that you have in the world. It's literally the only thing you can never get back. And the part for me that I always struggled with was I felt like when somebody gave me a job, it meant that there was a value being placed on my time. And this really gave me anxiety. And again, I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing for other people. If that's what people choose to do, that's great. But for me, it gave me anxiety because it literally put a ceiling on what my time was worth. And if that was the mentality that I had for myself, I think it was a very limiting thought for what I could help create and connect more people. Which is why I inevitably left and started a company. And Zipkick has taken on 3 different iterations over the course of over 5 years. We started in the hotel space. We went more into the digital agency space. And now we're actually moving into a pure platform to connect influencers and brands and really build an ecosystem around the world to help emerging brands go to market and to get visibility. So, I think it's interesting, the comment that was just put in here around anxiety. And, it's nice to see thoughts shared like that, because again, it's that open forum and communication that this isn't a negative thing. It's a very, alleviating feeling to know that you can openly share.
And this is a safe place. So I want to emphasize that right now. If you have something happening, whether you want to drop it in a comment of the video or the audio, once the audio goes live at the end of the week, I'm cool with that. But this is a safe place, and only safe comments will be allowed. Like, I do not, and I will remove anybody from these feeds ever that takes this negatively or does any sort of negative response, because this is a purely positive space. Lou, please DM me. So those of you guys who are watching, listening, DM me if you need anything. I am here. I am a resource. Lou, that goes for you. Send me a message. Let's talk. I'm here if you need me. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I addressed that. But yeah, so let's get back in. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, I think that everybody has an idea of work-life balance. And I've actually never understood this concept of work-life balance, okay? Because, and not in a, you need to work until like literally your eyes close and you fall asleep on your desk sort of thing. No. What I'm saying is that I've always, since those experiences, I've always tried to find a way to incorporate my friendships and the people that I really care about into the thing that we're building, right? So, the whole reason, if we go back to what we talked about earlier, which was, I made phone calls around the world to make people feel engaged, that they were about to join something that they could really feel a part of and represent and be proud of. And that relationship with people was so critical to building something, right? Because when somebody joins something that you're a part of or something that you created, that means that they believe in you and what you're capable of doing. And they feel like that's a good reflection of who they either want to be or what they want to be a part of. And that's not something to be taken lightly, right? Every platform that you join, every friendship that you have is a reflection of the decisions that you make, right? And, I took that very seriously, right? And I wanted, again, you mentioned being a safe place. I've had people message me in the Zipkick community and said, hey, this is either my religious belief, or, hey, this is my dietary restriction, or, hey, this is something that I think you need to know about me. And I've always kept a safe space for people to connect around so many different things. We had one of our influencers the other day. She's a product of the Armenian genocide. Okay, her family went through that. She grew up with that. And when she took over our Instagram account, she was posting facts about that, right? And, you know, I think it was really key to educate people on these things that are being lost over the course of time. That was in 1915, so 103 years ago sort of thing. And over the course of time, we're so far removed from these scenarios that they can't be forgotten, right? Because we still have so many people around us that it is so raw to them, even though it's 103 years later.
Wow. That's heavy.
Yeah. But that's why we do it. You know, that's why we really do it.
And it's not always going to be light, like, because mental health takes on so many different forms. Lou had just mentioned anxiety. I mean, how we handle stress, how we, everything having to do with our mind, right? And if our mind isn't healthy, if we're like, and I think the biggest thing for this community right now in this conversation is the conversation around how much we hold ourselves to and we bash ourselves when we don't hit it.
Yep.
Right? Like, especially the entrepreneurial space, it's so competitive. And if we're not doing this because Gary Vee is doing that, or if we're not here because Casey Neat, like any of these things, all of a sudden we bash ourselves because we didn't make it like them. Well, guess what? If I had $100 million organization, 800 people working for me, I'd be able to do a lot of cool shit too. Just saying. Like, it's all in what you like. Be a badass. It's okay. But also don't hold yourself to such high regard. And this was my problem for a very long time. I would work until my fucking fingertips bled. And I mean, I still do my.
That's that Midwest work ethic over there.
Right. Like I don't have an off button. Even right now, as we're having this conversation, I'm calculating what I need to do in the next 30 minutes after the session's over in order to get everything accomplished before I like go and have family time. So it's like, cut yourself some slack, guys. Please. Because the only one that's going to bash you is you. And everybody else can fuck off. By the way, you can curse on the show. Like, hold up. Let's lighten the mood. So, question: if you were not, well, I mean, we can lighten the mood. All right. So the question that's being presented is to Jason: if you were stranded on a desert island and you had one thing, or what one thing would you wish that you had with you? And if while being stranded, apparently we're going to be stranded on a desert island for 3 years. What is that one thing you wish you had or wish you could bring with?
A boat. I mean, come on, that's such an entrepreneurial answer, right? I mean, like a boat to get out of there, right? If I need to. So,
I have to disagree with you on that.
See,
I have to disagree, and this is why. Because if you were stranded, you technically wouldn't have a boat because a boat is a way of being unstranded.
Okay, fine. I don't know.
I mean, if we're wanting to legitimately answer the question is if you were stranded on a desert island for 3 years, what would you wish you had with, or what would you have with you, want to have with you? And you can't have a boat because then, therefore, you would not be stranded anymore.
You know what? I would go with the most basic necessity, which would be a water filter. So I think that is like the one thing that you would absolutely have to have. Otherwise, you're in pretty rough shape. Right. So if I'm going to be like, you know, bare essentials, like what's the Man versus Wild or whatever it is, or Naked and Afraid, or like
any that's stranded in an environment where he has a whole fucking camera crew with him.
No. Sure. How about the show Naked and Afraid? Right, those two people, they bring, I think, one item with them. They drop them into a deep environment, and they get to pick one item.
Says a Wilson.
yeah, seriously.
I mean,
but
so That's a good answer. Water. I mean, that's the basic. If you don't have that,
Right.
there's no escape. There's no survival. Yeah. Anything else could be created if you had the water source.
So Lou saying, wish there was a flashlight, and I think that's great. I don't know what flashlight, right? I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's great. But you get light half of the day anyway, so it's like, I don't know. For me, I want to be able to survive. So, but you know, I do want to talk about what was there was something that you were saying just a few minutes ago that I thought was really interesting, that I was going to piggyback on, but I lost my train of thought.
Well, Lou made us change the subject because he said it was getting too heavy. It's okay though. This is all about like, okay, let's
Free
be
flow.
human, like free flow. I literally have no notes. I mean, I have a blank pad of paper next to me. I did not come like stacked to the deck with questions because I wanted this just to be, let's go with the flow kind of conversation. Because I mean, we have a total of an hour, so we've got 25 minutes left. So we can really just talk. So back to what I was saying, which I don't remember where I was at either. Thanks, Lou.
I think that you were talking about, you know, the comparison to other people, right? And I think ultimately, you know, life is not meant to compare yourself to other people, right? I remember growing up in the Midwest where I was very conditioned to think that a 9-to-5 job was success, a 401k, you know, there was, you know, all this kind of stuff.
You got to have that health insurance, man.
Yeah, you got to have benefits. You got to have 401k. You got to have a steady 9-to-5 job, right? Like that's what success looks like. And guess what? I did that, right? And I did that for nearly 4 years out of college. And I said to myself, if this is what greatness looks like, or if this is what success looks like, and I looked around me in that office and I saw all the 40, 50, 60-year-old folks that were still at that company. And, you know, I said to myself, I go, that is going to be me. And if I don't do something about it. So there's a question here.
Another question that just came through. If there was one thing or event in the world, let's see, if there was one thing or event in the world you could change, what would it be? Absolutely nothing.
Interesting. But so this means like an event that happened in your life, or this is like a physical event that goes on?
I'm taking it as I'm reading it, like an event event in the world. So I'm assuming that's like a life event, like something happened. Like, I mean,
first of all, I don't live my life with any sort of like what if scenario.
Me neither.
Like I truly believe that everything is meant to be for a reason. And you know, when and what's interesting is I saw this Chinese proverb video a couple months ago. Somebody sent it to me because I think it was really interesting. It was something. It was an animated thing that wasn't real, but somebody, you know, put it together, and it was like, so and so something happened, and then isn't that terrible? And he goes, only time will tell. And then something great happened, and then the response was, only time will tell. Right. And it was this series of positive and negative things that people brought to this individual that they perceived as positive or negative. And his response to everything was, only time will tell. Right. And I walked away from that video and I said to myself, like, oh, as juvenile as that is, because it's animated and stuff like that, the actual underlying reason for why he's responding with only time will tell is because the limitation of us as human beings, we really don't understand the orchestra up above. And whether or not that you're into spiritual stuff or not, I just believe that there's things that are meant to be in a certain way to allow us to evolve, right? We're constantly in an evolution stage. And I don't know if good things or bad things. I believe that there are wake-up calls that you have to have hit you square on in order for you to change your path. And those voices in those situations get louder and louder if you don't listen. So that's, to me, how I look at life. I actually have zero regrets for anything that's ever happened.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I wish that I wouldn't have put myself through the multiple suicide attempts before. But the reason why, oh, my video back. Apparently somebody tried to call me on Instagram, and Instagram's like, nope. Can you guys still see me on Instagram? Because my screen looks black.
No, it's good. There's a little bit of delay. I'm just waiting for it to catch up.
Okay. So that's weird because I literally can't see myself on Instagram. Anyways, anyways, my friends, I agree. No regrets, because regret, to quote Gary Vee, regret is poison. Although I'm sure he's probably not the only person that's ever said that. He's just one of the ones that have coined it. I also, like, there's nothing that has happened to me or in my life from the life of my family that I would take back, because every single thing, the good, the bad, the really shitty, and the really dark, have made me who I am and have given me the power to be able to have these types of conversations in the first place. Because if you would have said, hey, Ryan, you've got to do this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have said, you're fucking kidding. Oh, you got to do a video nearly every single day? Huh, you're joking. Like, that's not going to happen. Or let alone go out and speak in front of thousands and hundreds and thousands of people. Like, no. But now, this is all that I know. But it's everything that has led up to now that has given me the power to be able to do this. Like, for me, my superpower, if we want to go down that conversational pathway, is the ability to be so massively comfortable in being uncomfortable. Like, when I'm so uncomfortable, that is when I'm at my strongest. Because then it's like, okay, cool, like, let's go. That's the only thing that I know. And similarly to yourself, because I get asked all the time, why do you work so much? And this has come up in other episodes, but it's because if I stop, and I know myself well enough, if I stop, it's when the darkness comes.
Right.
And when I let that get in there and it festers, like, bad things happen.
It's so interesting. So I follow Grant Cardone a lot, and Grant, you have to kind of turn him off because he's very intense at times. But he says the devil appears in the white space on your calendar, right? And I think about that all the time, right? It's also like there's another saying, idle hands, something.
Are the devil's playground.
Right. And, when you think about what that exists as, right, it's, you've got to be disciplined. You've got to set goals for yourself. You've got to hold yourself accountable, and don't be hard on yourself. Right. And I think that's the thing is you've got to set goals and you've got to try to push yourself. But, people always ask all the time, they're like, how do you define success and failure? And I've always responded with, failure is only a product of when you give up. To me, you're completely succeeding all the time. And until you decide to wave the white flag, then you've actually chosen to fail. And that sort of perspective and these sort of things, I think, helps really shift your mindset as it pertains to success and failure.
I agree. Similarly to yourself, I get asked the question all the time, frequently, especially now that I've been on a lot of podcasts this year so far, is what is your greatest success, right? My answer, I'm still here. I'm still here when a lot of other people who have come before and have come after are gone.
Yeah.
I'm still here. My business is still growing. I still get to make new relationships and have new conversations and cultivate new every single day. That's my success, because I'm not going to merit it on somebody else's point of view. Like, a lot of people would think I'm not successful because I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in the bank account, a Benz, and like a fucking Rolex on my wrist. Like, but me, I get to do what I love every single fucking day of the week. And that, my friend, is success. Yeah. So Lou posted another question to us. If you can sit with one actor right now on the state of entrepreneurship, who would it be? I'll let you take that one.
It says both of you answer, so I think you're on the hot seat first.
All right, fine. Let's see. One actor. Hmm.
I have an answer if you want me to go, and you can think about it.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
So
I'm looking for some of my
you know who I've always really respected. This is like going to come completely out of left field. Is Dave Chappelle, and the reason why I bring that up is because for him, in the moment that he was faced with a $50 million contract from Comedy Central, which was completely unheard of, the guy not only
Right.
turned it down, but then literally got so far away from this thing that he thought was controlling his art. And to me, I've got such mad respect for somebody like that who literally said, "You are not going to control me, no matter how much money that you think I'm worth or how much money you seek to make. It's not going to happen." And to me, I appreciate the gusto of somebody to be able to walk away from a situation like that. So, I also see him as an entrepreneur. He's obviously come back and done other things since that whole separation.
Right.
But I don't know. To me, I've got a tremendous amount of respect for somebody like that.
That I see. I have a couple. But Lou's telling me I can only say one. Um, honestly, Dwayne Johnson.
Really? The Rock?
Hell yeah.
Why? Because he's going to try to run for president?
Oh, hell no. Not even because of that. Well, my first answer was going to be Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
Right?
Who started what? The Honest
Mainly
Company or something, right?
Right. Like, she's still like, mainly because, like, referencing again Idle Hands, there was a film called Idle Hands. And it was one of Jessica Alba's first ones. And of course, like, it came out when I was a teenager and she was a teenager. And it was like, oh, hey, crush. But now it's like, you know what? I'm sticking to this answer. Jessica Alba. And this is why. Outside of her illustrious career in acting, she's gone on producing work, right? And then the Honest Company and like the whole ethos behind the Honest Company, or yeah, is like so similarly mirroring my entire ethos. Like let's do, like, be honest with your intent. Like, this is why I transitioned the record label from a traditional, like, for-profit business to being a non-for-profit, because I wanted to do it the right way, right? And I wasn't making money doing it the wrong way, so might as well try and make some money doing it the right way. And by the way, oh yeah, we get to help attempt to cultivate artists' careers and get them recurring revenue that's stable and scalable. Like, this is why. So yeah, Jessica Alba is my answer.
Very cool.
And that's my why.
No, it's a good question. And I just think for people to understand, it's you and I actually do roughly similar stuff, right? We just do it with different people.
Right. We deal with different people and we put different monikers on it, but yeah, it's the same.
Right. And that's what's really interesting is that when you let people focus on their craft or their craftsmanship on what it is that they're producing, then people can really focus and dial in on that, and that creative juice that they really seek to have on a regular basis. I realize how many creatives are actually not business people, right? And also business people are not necessarily creatives. Like, I look at videos that people produce and edit and people that take amazing photos, and I'm just like, wow, I wish I could do that, right? But we all have our skills, and that's what a team is assembled with, right? By the way, I keep on seeing this book behind you, or this pamphlet that says "One Life." What is this?
That's a pillow, actually. I always
really?
mess up, like, the angle.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, there you
go. I'm looking at it and I'm pointing in the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's actually Carter, you want to grab that? The pillow? Yeah. So
I really like that.
There's two pillows that are back there, actually. Both of them have meaning. But yeah, this one, Vaynerchuk pillow. Like, he has that Hustler's Digest email and he gave it away. But like, and then this is going to be really weird. Everything's like, oh, you have a stuffed animal in your office. Why do you have a stuffed animal in your office? The reason why this is here it speaks to my family. So my grandfather was a professor of geology.
Yeah, he wasn't a Buffalo Soldier like the song.
No, that was actually a mastodon.
Wow.
So he was here in Illinois. There's a small university called Wheaton College. Wheaton College actually has the Perry Mastodon, which my grandfather was on the team that helped excavate it.
Wow, that's cool.
So that's what this is.
Wow.
So obviously Wheaton is monetizing the shit out of that whole story and product, which is fine. That's what it's here for. But it's like that's what those two were doing back there.
Wow, so, very cool. No, I love that. I love that idea of one life, right? And
right.
I don't know. I just feel like you've got one shot at this thing, and
right. And the other interesting thing about this, if you guys look close enough, it says 11/14, and it's Tuesday, November 14th. So it's 11/14, 11/14. For those of you guys who can see that. For those of you guys who don't know what I'm talking about and are listening to this after the fact, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Ryan. Go to my Instagram and actually upload later on this week, I'll post both of those in separate images, and you guys can read the stories there. Or I'll post them to Medium and a little explanation. But all right, so we've got like 5 minutes left. This is the point in the time in the episode where, again, I want to reiterate, if you yourself are going through something or you know someone who is, please reach out. And if not to us, that'd be Jason or myself. Find resources in your space that can help. Here in the United States, we have a couple of amazing organizations, one of which is called the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They're a little bit of an older organization. The other organization is one that I'm a massive fan of and inspired me for a very, very long time. The organization is called To Write Love on Her Arms. It was founded by Jamie. I can never pronounce Jamie's last name. But reach out to these organizations. These organizations are here to help, and myself included. I want to help. So if you guys are struggling, please send me a DM. And if you don't want to post it publicly, I support that. But please reach out. I do have time. I know I'm very busy, and Jason is as well. But we will take messages. We will respond, because this community is why we exist in the first place when it comes to our businesses. So, and honestly, if it wasn't for all of you guys, I probably wouldn't be doing this in the first place. Like, all of my musicians, all of my team, I am so far from being a self-made man that it's ridiculous. Everybody around me has helped mold me to be who I am right now. So now, with the remaining 4.5 minutes, I want you to tell the fine people who are listening and or watching this where they can connect with you, how they can learn more about Zipkick and what you've got going on, and just generally where they can find Jason. So
yeah, and before I do that, I want to thank you first of all for giving me the opportunity to be on here. I think first and foremost, helping each other grow our audience, having conversations. Mental health is something that we need to definitely talk about more, and not be afraid to do so. So I appreciate that, and yes, I'm very happy to help people if they're going through something. I've done it many, many times before, and I'm happy to do it many, many times in the future. So that is absolutely the case. Now, a little bit about me. You can connect with me on the Zipkick account at Zipkick, Zipkick. My personal handle, which is what I'm joined with right now, is Jason B. Will. A couple things to note. We're actually getting ready to release our new platform that I've been working with the team on for the last nearly 6 months. It is completely a game changer. We're building an entire ecosystem for the brands, the influencers, and a ton of complementary companies that offer products and services for small and emerging businesses. The whole idea is to create one consolidated ecosystem where any small and emerging brand, regardless of who you are, can tap into the resources that you need to scale your business. So our goal is to find businesses that are typically less than about $500,000 to $1 million, and our goal is to try to get them over the $5 million mark. There's a very high percentage of small businesses in this country that fail. And I believe that it's because the time, resources, and money is not adequately dialed in. And I really think that this ecosystem is the way that we can help manage a lot of the time, resources, and money in one place to really help these brands scale.
Awesome.
So that's the lifeblood of our country, right? If the small businesses are growing, then everybody wins. The cities get more tax dollars, more jobs are created. But I also feel like more people have purpose and passion to be a part of something that they help create. So that's why we're passionate about what we're doing. And my goal is also to help influencers monetize beyond just their direct following, right? Their real influence in the world. That digital word of mouth we spoke about earlier, it's helping them monetize that, whether they know brands, they know other influencers, they know, things in this world to connect people to get things done. That's real world influence. So that's the whole goal here. And I'm very open and try to have a very open dialogue about these things as often as possible.
This is amazing. Jason, again, I want to say thank you for joining. It's been a massive honor, brother. To those of you guys who have made it this far in the video or this far in the audio, again, thank you for tuning in. This has been the 9th episode in the Open Heart Collective content series, Open Heart Collective. I'm just calling it that. All of these episodes, while originally broadcast live on Facebook and Instagram, unfortunately, your video will die off in 24 hours from now. Facebook, you will live on in perpetuity, and then on again in YouTube at the end of the week. And the audio will be available on my podcast channel, which goes through Apple Podcasts, Anchor, all those platforms on Saturday of this week. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Jason, again, thank you. And back again on Friday with another episode. Again, another entrepreneur on Friday, Tyler Marshall. Really looking forward to this call or this session. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jason. And Instagram, we're going to see you later, Instagram. Oh, I'm apparently back now. So that was weird. So have you guys been able to see my video the whole time on Instagram? Like, did my face go away? No. Because the top part of my screen was dark until I just went to hit end. Anyways, so Instagram, see you in the next one.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That was so weird. Anyways, so Facebook. Thank you. Jason, thank you. This video will live on in perpetuity for as long as Facebook keeps me around. So check it out. Please comment. Please engage. We will be, Jason has access to this video. He'll be able to respond to the comments. I'll respond to the comments too. So please engage. If you want to come in on a future episode, let's go. Just DM me, send me a message, shoot me an email. I want to keep this content series going for as long as you guys keep wanting to hear it. So, and a little bit of tidbit for you guys on Facebook, and you guys on YouTube that'll hear eventually too. I am currently in the midst of a campaign outreaching to organizations like American Foundation for Suicide Prevention to write Love on Our Arms to help get support, not financial support. I don't care about the money, but to get support for this content series to get the message heard by more people. So any of you guys who know anybody in those spaces or those organizations, please feel free to share that with me. I do obviously want to get this ethos and this mindset out to as many people as possible, because that's the only way that we can change the world. So that being said, I'm going to end this broadcast. As I end every single broadcast, I'm going to say these following 3 things, and I hope you guys internalize them. Truly, I hope you do. Be happy and have fun and hustle hard, but make sure that you're truly living the first 2, because if you're not, the 3rd one is irrelevant. We'll see you guys in the next one.